Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Alex Dongs. I am the press secretary to the Prime Minister. Thank you for joining us here at St. Joseph Speaks. Apologies for the delay, but we are now ready to begin. Once again, if you are prepared to speak or share some of the issues or concerns you have, we invite you to join us at the back of the room, where you can leave your information with the desk from the Prime Minister's office. Then you can have a seat in the rows straight ahead. So without much further ado, I'll turn you over to our Deputy Prime Minister, Member of Parliament, obviously for St. Joseph, and other members of the head table. So thank you once again.
Pleasant good evening to each and every one of you. As you know, we are here this evening to discuss the issues affecting the people of St. Joseph. So I think without further ado, I would move to the very first person. Again, we are here to listen, so please take your time and just explain to us some of the concerns that you may have. Thanks. And as usual, your name and address, and then your issue.
Okay. All right. A blessed good night to the Deputy Prime Minister, the Attorney General, and Senior Minister. My name is Dolores Thompson from Melvin Hill, St. Joseph. Melvin Hill, St. Joseph. Madam Deputy Prime Minister, I just want to touch base on some matters in the parish.
Just like to welcome the Prime Minister. Thank you for joining us.
I apologize, I was doing a recording, so sorry about that.
Yes. Roadworks, the bridge, Melvin Hill Bridge, the bus service, land slippage, and I just need a little clarification from the Prime Minister on the Tenantry Freehold Purchase Act and the Land Tax Act.
Okay, let me deal with the first one.
Okay. The road work,
Yes.
could you give me some...
Melvin Hill.
No. Could you give me some insight about what's happening at Fruitful Hill, Coconut Grove, and Wands Road?
Okay. So all of the roads that you and the areas you've called are actually under the Scotland District Rehabilitation Project, which is the project where we have acquired loan financing from the People's Republic of China through the Exim Bank in the sum of 230 million to be able to do roadworks across the Scotland District. Of course, St. Joseph falls within the Scotland District, and so we have a works program which addresses a number of the parishes within the Scotland District. Vaughan's Road, as you mentioned, was one of the sample roads that the Chinese team would have started. I am told that that is about 90% complete. They should be doing the paving on that part of the road, the very last section of the road next week. There is still a bit of accommodation works that still have to be done, but the vast majority of the works in that area have actually been completed. There was some inconvenience to the residents, I'm well aware, because I visited, so has Dr. Springer. And there was a section that couldn't be paved because we had some challenges in terms of boundaries, which present some issues in terms of whether we have to do acquisitions from time to time, or whether there is enough space on either side of the road in order to be able to conduct the rehabilitation works. But we've been able to resolve that for the most part, and it is anticipated that we will be in a position shortly to be able to pave the road and to bring some relief to the residents in that area. As it relates to Fruitful Hill, works had started on that project quite a number of years ago, so I can understand the frustration of the people of St. Joseph, and I can tell you that your MP has not been short of, crying out for the concerns of the people. But one of the things that we recognized was that the road actually required a more detailed design. Again, appreciating the fact that the district is very challenging in terms of the slippage from time to time, we decided to do a more detailed design, which we have put out to tender. And that, along with Coconut Grove, both of those have gone out to tender. So you would have seen a lot of gabion work that was initially started, but we recognize that it is obviously a bit more complex than initially anticipated. And we are in the process of having the designs done so that those works can be completed.
But you have any idea when especially the Coconut Grove and the Foothill Road?
Right, so the tender for that is going to close, for both of those will close on the 4th of May. Once those tenders are opened, then we would be in a position to be able to have the individuals the professionals do the designs. And then as soon as possible thereafter, we will start the actual road works on that particular area. It will involve more gabion building. And the good news is that a number of the persons who were formerly ash workers and who had taken up the opportunity to participate in the construction gateway programs which were offered by the government. Many of those persons have actually been hired back now as part of the gabion worker teams to be able to help us across the Scotland district. So if you go to Triapath in St. Andrew, you will start to see works taking place there. Once we have the designs for those within St. Joseph, you will then start to see as well an escalation of the works with a number of the gabion teams being able to do work within the St. Joseph community.
Okay. All right. I just want to give Mr. Patrick a thank you for patching the road. Pardon? I just want to give Mr. Patrick a thank you for patching the road from Toscarna to Melvin Hill. The next thing is on the Melvin Hill Bridge. There are some missing columns on both sides. They need to be replaced, and also on both sides of the bridge, it need debushing.
Okay. I can't dispute with you on the debushing. That is a concern I had as well when I visited just a few days ago. I think that the temporary works that were done, and perhaps the technical team can speak a bit more detail to it, but my understanding is that there is this interlocking work that was done, which is on either side of the road. One side? Yeah, one side of the road. And we actually tidied up the area because I was also very concerned that work had been done, but it probably had not been properly communicated the extent of the works that were done. We have since tried to correct that and tidy up the area, but there is still some debushing work, I agree, that needs to be done in this space. Now, while that work has been done now, which I said is temporary, the intention is that there are designs that are being done by the Complant team, which is a Chinese team, to be able to then do a more permanent fix for that particular structure. So that what you see there is a temporary fix to be able to stabilize the lands, and that is in consultation with our teams in MTW or supervisory consultants and Complant. And then once the design work has been completed, that is going to move up into the works program to be completed. I just want to take the opportunity as well to indicate to the people of St. Joseph that one of the things that has been particularly challenging with a number of the bridges and the roadworks in St. Joseph is that while we had a number of works planned at the beginning of certainly at the beginning of last year, we had a lot of heavy rainfall in the latter part of the year, and as a consequence, the ministry found itself and the technical team responding to a lot of emergency works. We then had to take areas like Mellows Hill, Melvin Hill Bridge, and other Spa Hill and raise them higher in terms of priority within the works program in order to be able not to affect the residents in any further way. So a lot of the works that we intended to do, we could not do. They kind of got pushed down into the program. And a lot of the ones that we are actually prioritizing now are works that we have had no choice but to prioritize in order to stabilize the lands because of the slippage.
You were talking there just now I was speaking about the actual bridge, not the part that fell in last year, October, that the conveyance workers came and fixed in December. I'm not speaking about that. I'm speaking about the actual bridge that the columns missing.
Right, but that is part of the overall design. So we're not going to just do the road and not address the bridge. So it's all part of one
But
project.
it is dangerous.
I agree
So
that
need
we do
something
have
happening there.
right. We do have some challenges. The bridges have been inspected. Where there are concerns with the bridges, we have taken a position, whether people appreciate it or not. We have closed bridges where we have felt that the bridges were so unsafe that whether it's cars or pedestrians should not be going over them. So there is no hesitation on this ministry not to close a bridge. We understand the disruption that is caused to the people and the residents in the communities, but equally, our first priority is always to the safety of the residents and to the commuters as well.
Anyhow, I'll go on to the bus service. The bus service, well, Madam Prime Minister ordered some buses, but I think that things get worse. For Chalky-Mount, after 7:30 at night, you have to wait till 9:30. After 9:30, you have to wait till 12 o'clock. Before we get the buses, we used to have a 7:30 bus, a 8:30 bus, a 9:30 bus, 11 o'clock bus, and a 12 o'clock bus. That goes for Sugar Hill and Chalky-Mount. If the 7:30 bus listen you by the Globe, you got to start up by the Globe or all along Hinesbury Road or somewhere to wait till 9:30 to get another bus. I don't think that that's fair.
Right, so I'm not sure if Linda Holder is here from Transport Board, but if she is, she can perhaps come to the
And
mic.
the same thing goes for Sugar Hill too.
Right, so
There is the hour, while Chalky-Mount is the half.
right, so on the last occasion we were here, one of the concerns was definitely the Sugar Hill bus, which my understanding is that there have been some improvements to that service. You're now mentioning
Chalky-Mount.
Right, so I don't have an update as it relates to that because I haven't had the same.
Chalky-Mount one.
Right, I haven't had the same complaints in relation to that, but the Sugar Hill one was definitely one that we tried to improve the service on that particular route. And I agree with you. We are waiting on the buses as well. I believe when Prime Minister visited the People's Republic of China, we've entered into a memorandum of understanding with the Chinese team that they're looking to be able to provide additional buses, both the smaller sizes as well as the larger buses as well. And I'm hopeful, as you know, that these things have to be manufactured, obviously, before they can come to Barbados in terms of shipment. But I'm hopeful that by maybe early next year that we'll be in a position to add to the existing fleet of buses that we have here.
Okay. All right. Land slippage in St. George. What plans the government have to assist the residents in St. George who are facing land slippage?
You can hear me now?
Yeah.
Obviously, it depends on where the area is and the extent of the slippage, so I think you would have to be far more precise in the question. If there are concerns, let us know, and we will have either geological reports have been done already, or we will have to get to see what is the situation. But to say that we're going to do X, Y, or Z is just to give you an answer to move you from the mic, and I'm not going to participate in that act. So you'd have to be far more precise, and if you need a site visit, then we can look at it. We know that we've been dealing with people, for example, in St. Simons and in White Hill. Understand? If there are difficulties in specific areas, just let us know, and let us get the Ministry of Public Works and the requisite geological support services to go in and give us the responses.
Okay. Prime Minister, this one is for you. I just want a little clarification on the Territory Freehold Purchase Act and the Land Tax Act, where pertaining to a conveyance and getting a value land tax certificate where the landlord owe taxes. The Act states in Part 8 of the Land Tax Act 41-1A that the commissioner can issue a land tax certificate, but it doesn't mean that the landlord does not have to pay the taxes. So I'm facing some problems with BRA and getting the certificate for tenantry matters.
I think that if that's the case, then let us take your information and investigate it for you. Because I don't know the facts. That's what she said.
Pardon?
She's
No. The work that I'm doing.
Is national housing that matter? But if that's the case, we'll take that off record.
Okay.
Because I don't know what is the situation with respect to that offhand, and I would have to pull up the legislation and ask the AG to look at it and see what is the situation that we're talking about. Okay?
Okay. Okay, that's it.
Thank you very much. Who's next?
Good night to the head table, Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, Senior Minister Duguid, MP, Dale Marshall. My name is DeCourcy Holder. I'm from Lamers and St. Joseph. Last year, we were here speaking about roads, and I asked questions about the road behind there at Easy Hall. Nothing has been done to that so far yet. But I'm hearing now about you can't do the roads because of the bridges, and I understand that. But there's some roads that don't have bridges that can be fixed. Sugar Hill, Branchbury, Chimborazo, Erie Hill, and Lamins. And Lamins closed where they side roads. But everybody asking me when the day come. Because I always spend the ground. Well, he was off the road for a little while, but I'm back now. And people asking me every time I go on the road, and Plecky, when we can get roads in St. Joseph fixed. Up to Sunday, I had to tell a guy, I never worked in government yet. I never was an MP. So don't ask me them questions. Come to the meeting tonight and ask these questions. So I want to know, as Ms. Thompson said earlier, I know it can get a little bit, maybe monotonous because I'm not hearing much, but everybody can be talking about roads. But I want to know when we can see our drive on some good roads in St. Joseph, just like we don't got to wait till we get them proud to get a little smooth ride. We want to get a good ride down from Air Hill, from Sugar Hill, Branchbury, and we want to drive smooth too. And that will help save the buses, because when the new buses get on these roads, they sound like when I used to go to Sunday school at the mission in Brazil, the same with licking. So we want to know when we can get some good roads. I can ask these questions, then I can sit, and who want to answer can answer. You may be able to answer, Mr. Batcher, when I finish with the roads. But there's another one, I don't know if Mr. Charles Griffith is here tonight, but if he's not here, I hope my MP can answer this question. What are the plans for the pavilion at Lamins, if there are any? Because for too long now, this pavilion was closed, and nothing happened with it, and it's ruined. Rats, rodents, all sort of things in it. And the guys over there scrimmaging at night, but only they can't get a cricket match out there because they say that we don't have a good pavilion. They got a cricket match series going on here right now. All the games are playing right here at Grantley Adams. And the reason why they say that the people in Lamins can't get a game or two, because of that the pavilion is no good. We don't have a pavilion. And that was closed when Dwight Sutherland was the minister. Charles Griffith came to Lamins in the 22 election. He said he had the plans, and he see the plans already. But I don't know if them lost. So I want to ask Mr. Marshall if he can tell us what are the plans for the pavilion. And my third question is, Ms. Thompson mentioned housing, but I'm going to mention one particular house, and that's in Sugar Hill in St. Joseph. Has been built since Elsa. And I took it upon myself yesterday to walk up there to see if anything happening to the house. Because people tell me it paint and it finish and the woman can still move in. Far from the truth. The lady cannot own her house yet. Because the well ain't there yet, as far as I understand. The house ain't finished paint. It's still prime. Well, they got on, it got in current. I don't know if water in it. But the lady, this book nearly, since Elsa, I can't remember what time Elsa passed, but from time Elsa passed. And the reason why I asked that, there was a gentleman on television some time back from that house, and I don't remember his name, and he said these words, that they're 85% finished with the housing from as far as Elsa is concerned. But in December, the 30th of March, they will complete the whole lot. 30th of March gone, nearly the 30th of April, and the lady still can't get in her house. So anybody can answer those questions, I appreciate it. Thank you.
No, I don't know about it, but I'll investigate it.
Thanks very much, Plecky. I know your passion, and you've always been there to advocate for these many issues. In relation to the specifics of the house at Sugar Hill, you've reached out to me to remind me to chase that particular matter with National Housing Corporation. I've done so. The CEO of National Housing Corporation is here, so I believe he'll be able to give you some specifics. In relation, though, to the pavilion, if you follow the estimates, I asked that specific question to the minister and his team, and the National Sports Council indicated that to replace the pavilion, to rebuild the pavilion for us, will cost just over $1 million. They had committed to rebuilding a pavilion for us. Namens is a very dense area, a lot of young people. The pavilion was kept busy, cricket, square dancing, other classes, and I too am passionate about getting it started again. It would be a shame if that entire area, Sugar Hill, Chimborazo, Airy Hill, that entire geographical area did not have the benefit of that pavilion. I believe that the CEO from the Sports Council is here, and he will answer you specifically on their plan for it.
Yeah, good night to the head table. And good night to the residents and constituents here. Good night. Can you hear me? Good. All right. Indeed, we spoke to, in the estimates, as the Member of Parliament, Mr. Marshall, indicated, we have allocated a sum of money for the pavilion at Lamins. The pavilion at Lamins goes back a couple of years, as Mr. Plecky would have said, going back to Dwight Sutherland. That pavilion was in a horrible state of disrepair, a lot of termites and so on. And we went there with a team to look at the pavilion and to understand the requirements for a new pavilion. And we decided on a structure. We have a plan in place. Those plans are to be firmed up. But we have allocated money in this financial year for the pavilion at Lamins. We know that Goodwill Cavaliers plays there. And we know, as the Member of Parliament would have said, there are a number of young people out there at on the hard court and by the primary school there that want use of the pavilion. So we are very much aware of the need for the pavilion. We are very much aware that the pavilion will draw the community spirit back into that community at Lamins. And we have the plans and are working on the plans so that later in the financial year, we will seek to move and start construction there at Lamins later on.
If I may help you too, Neil, you were doing the one in the city of Bridgetown now first, correct?
Yes.
And what's the other one?
We're doing that. We are doing the one at St. Matthias. We're also doing the one at Meadow Road. We're working on the plans for that. So there's a number of pavilions that we're working on.
Right.
And monies have been apportioned, but it's going to...
Yeah, and therefore this becomes, once the plans are finished, we will look at it and prioritize in the same way. What we discovered when we came to office was that a number of pavilions were badly in need of work.
Correct.
And community centers.
Correct.
And with the best will in the world, you can't do everything all at once. So we have been doing them as funds allow, and we hear you loud and clear, sir, with respect to the need, as we've heard the Attorney General raise it on the floor of Parliament, with respect for the need for this pavilion to be included in the chain of ones that have to be done. Okay, so thank you for raising it.
So if I can just address your question in relation to the roads. Again, just to indicate that there are different types of roads. So everybody would have realized we did a lot of roads on the mill and pave recently in the early part of the last few months from January. Those were roads that were relatively straightforward, where we didn't have any issues in terms of utilities, roads that obviously didn't incur any slippage, as in some cases happens in the Scotland district. It was difficult to do roads within St. Joseph because of the issues of slippage. And in many cases, we have to do the designs on the roads before we can actually move to full rehabilitation. You have to do a topographical survey, you have to move to preliminary designs, and that involves the input of a number of different entities to be able to weigh into that process. And then you get to detailed design stage, then the project actually goes now to tender, and the selection of contractors then to be able to do the construction of the road. And even in that, it obviously requires the intervention of the various utility companies to coordinate the replacement of mains in some cases, as well as the removal of light poles. Because if we're widening the roads, we're making the roads a little bit better, obviously these are things that have to be provisioned before the contractors can actually start to do the major works. You asked specifically about certain roads, and so I just start there to just give you some context, but simply to say that, for instance, if you take Temp Bay, that particular road is on the coastline. And what we recognized was that we had to look to have a discussion with Coastal, for instance, before any determination could be made as to how we proceed. So those discussions are ongoing with Coastal, because we also discovered that Coastal apparently had a study done in terms of a design for the road previously. So the Complant team and the technical team are currently in discussions with Coastal to be able to look at whether, for instance, the design that previously existed, if there needs to be any modifications or if it can be used in its form, and then we can make a determination as to whether we can proceed with Temp Bay and move that up the list in terms of a priority. You also have Mellows Hill, which I'd mentioned earlier. If you take that particular road, we had to actually do a temporary bypass because a side of the road actually has just fallen away in terms of a landslide. And that road is actually being designed. So that's one of the ones that fell into the category of emergency works along with Melvin Hill. And we had to move that up the ladder in terms of priority. Then if you take Braggs Hill, which you mentioned, and Erie Hill, we are at the preliminary design stage. So the topographical surveys have been done. There is now the input in terms of the design team. And once that is completed, they move to the detailed design stage, which then allows us to be able to move to contractors to then be able to do the actual works. And I know you're looking at me, you're asking for timelines. I can't give you a specific timeline, but what I can just go through in terms of the narrative is to assure you that the works are being prioritized for St. Joseph, okay? As it relates to Spa Hill, this was another emergency situation where recently we had some slippage there in what we would call the belly of the actual hill. We were able to do some temporary repairs on that slope, and we are at the preliminary design stage as well for Spa Hill. And as I said, MTW has commenced some work so as to allow the persons who live in that area to be able to access it from either side. The Sugar Hill Lanes Bridge area, that is actually at detailed design stage. So that is more advanced, and that I'm hoping will be one of the next roads that we will be able to commence relatively soon. Highway Z, which is the Bathsheba area, That one is the road that leads to Bathsheba, because we've already completed a number of the other areas of Bathsheba. And we're doing that in 2 phases. So we have 2 sectors that we will do on that project. And that, again, is at detailed design stage. So in terms of readiness, there is Sugar Hill and Lanes Bridge that we expect to do next. And then we also have the Bathsheba area as well. There's also, in terms of priority, the Highway 3A, which is Sugar Hill to Highway 3, Springfield Road, as I mentioned earlier, Coconut Grove, because while we're doing the gabion work, we're also looking to repair the full road as well. There's also Highway 3, Cotton Tower, Easy Hall Road, Vaughn's Road number 3, Cattle Wash to Gaggs Hill, Bathsheba to St. Elizabeth, and Highway 3. And as you would have heard earlier, because we can't get to the full rehabilitation of a number of the roads in St. Joseph, because we have to do the designs, what the team has done is basically either do the normal milling and paving where they could. In some cases, they've had to use a coal mix, or in some cases, they've had to do a deeper overlay of the road. It is not perfect by any means, but again, I give you the assurance that St. Joseph, because of the complexity of the soils, it means that we have to take a little more time and a little bit more effort to being able to press ahead in terms of doing rehabilitation. And if the last thing I will say is, if you think in the context of the White Hill area in St. Andrew for a minute, again, most people would have said, abandon the area because of the slippage. We've taken a position, having done all of the topographical surveys, the preliminary designs and the detailed designs, that we've been able to press ahead now that we have all the information in front of us to redesign the road and the area to allow people to remain where they have lived for generations. And phase 1 of that has already been completed, and we are now on to phase 2, and the designs for phase 3 is in progress as well. So I just give you that as an example because there are a lot of similarities between St. Joseph and the St. Andrew area as it relates to the slippage, and it is very unpredictable, as I'm sure you can appreciate, in terms of doing the planning for the roads. I hope before the next election. Based on my schedule, I am pressing not for any election. I'm trying to make sure that we do these roads safely, sir. That is what is most important to me. And believe me, we have recognized the complexity which is created by people having to have bridges closed and roads closed. That is not lost on the ministry. But the priority at all times for us still has to be safety and making sure that we design the roads properly. Because if we don't do that, then you're going to complain that the road break way and there was slippage. So we have to do the best job we can in terms of getting all the information together that allows us to make an informed decision as to how to actually construct the roads within the Scotland district. Thank you, sir.
I am listening to you even as you speak softly.
If I can address the concerns raised with respect to the delays of the house at Sugar Hill. It is true that we have had some challenges at Sugar Hill with the particular house mentioned, but William Clark National Housing Corporation. But with respect to the house, we can say, and we're happy to say that the house is completed. We do have some remedial works to be done on the outside with respect to landscaping. But only today we were discussing having the house owner come in that they can receive the keys and they'll be able to move in the house before the end of this week. So we're happy to report that we have reached that stage where the house can now be occupied. Thank you.
Just before you take the mic, ma'am, Mr. Holder from Design Collaborative, DPM, is indicated is here. And many of the roads that people are speaking about are roads in the Compound Project, Scotland District Project. And Mr. Holder, you are one of the consultants dealing with this project. Would you like to address the complexity and the difficulties that we are having, but the fact that we're still making progress? Sir, thank you.
Oh, okay. Good evening. My name is George Holder from Design Collaborative. We are the employer's representative, which means that we stand between the contractor complaint and the government and the government of Barbados. But we call it employers representative. The issues that we've found in the Scotland district is we have to find ways and means of dealing with surface water in the clays that exist in the Scotland district. We also have a situation where previous designs of roads did not have to carry the loads that we have to carry these days, the size and the weights of the vehicles. And in doing this, or in trying to solve these problems, we have to undertake detailed and soils investigations, geotechnical investigations. Now, geotechnical investigations can be simply excavating a pit and looking at it and having tests done. It can also mean, and in many instances it's required, to do boreholes and send those samples off to the government lab to have analysis done in order to get some information to the engineers to determine what is the best form of base construction for the road. And also to determine the response to the subbase of the road in the event that water does get into it. Our main challenge is to keep water out of the subbase. That means that we have to really look at the drainage, the existing drainage, well, there's none really, but we have to create new drainage methods, whether it be culverts, box drains next to the road. We also have to find the natural water courses to lead the water off the road into those natural water courses, because in St. Joseph and in St. Andrew, there is none such thing as a suck well to take it away. Now, in trying to find these areas, or the so-called water courses, or getting water to those water courses, it may mean altering what we call the vertical alignment of the road. That is, the road has to change its shape in order to get the drains to go where we want to go. And it's a long design process. It involves the compliant team first doing their preliminary work. My team, I also have engineers on my team. My team then review what they have done, and we ask them to provide us with the information as to how they arrive at this situation. We then give advice as we know it or we understand it. They go back, make changes, come back to us. If we are satisfied, then that is considered to be a project that can go. But that's only the beginning, because then they have to go and do some estimates. And the produce bills of quantities, and then do estimates for our review. And even then, we have to have pretty decent discussions as to why the cost is this or why the cost is that. That is also a pretty engaging process. So I'm saying all this to let you know that the time period, I know the gentlemen want to know if the roads will be completed in a specific time. The roads will be completed in a specific time. There's a 3-year contract between Complan and the government of Barbados. And we anticipate and expect that the roads will be completed in that time. The specific roads in St. Joseph, which he mentioned, which are under design at the moment, we estimate that maybe in the 4th quarter of this year, and perhaps towards the end of the 3rd quarter of this year, we will be able to start 2 or 3 of those roads. And in the next year, we will be able to go full out on that, simply because we will have released the contractors from the work they're doing in St. Andrew and be able to move them on to the roads in St. Joseph. In terms of construction, we are faced with a shortage, you wouldn't believe it, but shortage of contractors. And when I say short of contract, I mean contractors who are capable of carrying out the works as designed in the Scotland District. The main contractor, they have not been able to establish their compound yet. They have not been able to bring in their workers yet. So we are doing the works at the moment with Williams Construction, Jada, and I understand there are two, not Jada, Infra, and there are two other contractors who will come on stream shortly. So we'll have 4 subcontractors working with Complant until they are able to get their team up and running. And as you know, there are roadworks going all over Barbados, Mill and Pave, there's other CAF roads, and there aren't enough people to go around, workmen to go around. And that's one of the issues that we have. Hopefully, in the new year, when these new contractors, I said, come on, and some more people are trained, we'll be able to work in more subcontracts. I was working in 10, 12 different roads at the same time. So that's where we're at. And that's the process. Those are the questions or the problems that we have to solve. And hopefully in a year, 16 months time, we'd have mastered them and solved all the issues. And the gentleman here would not have to concern himself about whether or not the roads will be done prior to the election. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Holder. Ms. Phillips?
Good evening to Madam Prime Minister and the head table. I am Patricia Phillips, born and bred at Chimborazo, now living at Lamis Close in St. Joseph. Spent all my 67 years in St. Joseph. I'm a bit disappointed in what I can see happening or not happening in St. Joseph, but that's not my issue. First, Madam Prime Minister, thanks to you and the Waterworks team, whoever they may be, for allowing me to be able to have water running down my back instead of splashing from a basin. You would not understand, who didn't live it wouldn't understand what we went through. And kudos for your management of the COVID-19 experience, especially on the medical side, because that's my pet peeve. Now, my concern, I live at Lamis, where I live. I am surrounded by 5 unoccupied, overgrown lots that the trees are taller than the light pole. I am having a rodent problem, mice and rat. This is 12 to 15 years that I have been contacting the public health sector when it was Morris Bayer and now at the David Thompson. The last health chief, Mr. Bourne, I went and spoke to him because he lived in my district too, and his solution for me was giving me 6 bags of rat bait. All right? What they're telling me is that, oh yeah, you have to find out who the lots belong to, and it's a process. So I tell him, look, I know one of the lots, the name of the lot. It says, well, a person that goes to your church, nothing has happened. Now, I contacted the leader as there now, Miss Clark. She's giving me the same thing, so it's on like a state record. Last year, when I went here, I did not voice it. I spoke to Mr. Morris behind the scenes. He said he would call me, and he did, and I felt good within a day or two. But this is April now, a whole year. He sent a gentleman from sanitation to look at the debushing. The man came, yes, I felt smart, and he said, oh, this is about 3-4 loads and $800. I ain't got that kind of money to pay for the debushing on somebody at spot. Huh? Mm.
And I want to invite you to Parliament when the debate is going on. You and a number of other people who for the last year have appropriately voiced your concern about the fact that people who own property are not accepting the obligation of ownership, which is to keep it in a good state such that it does not become a nuisance to others. The legislation was back and forth, the bill, and in fact it will be back before us tomorrow. We're actually meeting tomorrow and not Thursday.
Can I come tomorrow?
And I would expect, especially given Cabinet, and I don't know Parliament yet, I would expect that it will be laid in Parliament on the next occasion. And then at some point in the month of May, hopefully, that we can start the process. It may have to go to committee, I'm not sure, but if it does go to committee, I'm going to ask for an expedited process in committee, because there are too many people in this country who are suffering as a result of people's failure
And
to
my
keep.
case is severe. I was held hostage outside my door.
I hear you.
A rat at the top of
I
my
hear-
door. A rat at the top of my door.
I hear
and when
you.
I throw something at the
But
rat,
I
stick
don't
off
want
on
you
the
fall
wall.
down. I don't want you fall down, and I don't want that to happen.
No,
So that's why I tell you that I want people like you to come to Parliament when this is being debated, and if it goes to committee, to actually come and give evidence, because this is the only way we are going to change.
15 years.
Yeah, but
I tried clearing one. They wanted my right, but I ain't able now. At my age and my old heart, I ain't able. And I spent a whole lot. I just had to buy a bottle of Whirlpool Glow, what you call it, for 132. Of my pension, huh? If they would come and, to be honest, somebody would come and at least clear it off, I would spend some money in keeping the grass down with some spray.
I can understand.
Huh?
I can understand. In
But-
other words, you want reasonableness.
I can.
Not true?
Of course.
You want
5 spots,
reasonableness. But sometimes you have to create a new reference point to get people to change the behavior.
So
And the new reference point for us is to be able to have the legislation, and it is, people will soon decide if they want the government to clean it up, they will repay the government the money the government spent, and they will also pay a fine for the fact that the government had to do it. Or they can go and get it done themselves. So they will have a choice. Nobody's forcing anything on anybody. They have a choice. You can clean it yourself and make sure that it is not in that state, or you can let the government do it, and if you don't pay, it goes on your land tax bill. And ultimately, as you know, to do anything with land, you have to be able to clear your land taxes. So just as water rates are a charge on land tax, this will be a charge on land tax too. And sometimes you have to do these things in order to ensure that people understand that there's a line of discipline, because there was a lady who spoke to us in St. James Speak, and my heart has not fully recovered from what she has had to endure and experience because of the insensitivity and lack of consideration by those who would not do what they're supposed to do with what is theirs, their land. So, please.
Because of the overgrowth, people coming and dumping the dead animals, and they got all the stench to deal with.
Yeah. No, we hear you.
So there isn't anything that public health, the environment
They can do, environmental health can go wrong, but with the best will in the world, they can't do all the overgrown lots, which is why we're taking the approach of the legislation, because at the end of the day, the government will then start to do these things, and a lot of people will apply their hearts to common sense at that point and recognize that it is cheaper for them to clean it and get it kept low than for the government to do it, and then on top of the government having to repay what the government paid to a contractor to do it, you're going to have to pay a fine as well, because you're taking up government's time, forcing people to go and do things that you should do on your own, quite frankly.
So, madam, on the letter side, isn't there, Lawrence, any advice on how anyway I can own these properties? If I clear them, that I can own them? I'll talk to you, Lawrence, later.
You want me the government? No, but we hear you. We hear you. And the truth is that I was also being very serious by saying come to Parliament, because the Attorney General, your representative, has worked very hard.
Don't go there, Madam Prime Minister.
He's worked very hard on getting this.
Don't go there, because if not, the meeting can finish at 10. Don't go there.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Because we were suffering from the water problem, and I didn't see no representative coming around to see how we were doing.
Pat.
Man, you gotta
Hold
look
on.
after the people.
I now have to speak because I was the one that he brought up here as far back as when we were in opposition and then in government. And in fact,
I'm not talking about the
hold
army.
on, only tonight, the amount of money, I asked not just for the money, but for the process. And the truth is that Mr. Halliday is here on the Water Authority, and I'm very happy that I am in a St. Joseph where I can say that there is, for example, the new reservoir at Castle Grant. They want to repair the old one, but there's some other areas that we have to do first before we can repair the old one, because you've gone from a 290,000 gallon reservoir to a 1.5 million gallon reservoir. Similarly, we would have done at Mount Pleasant, the pump station and the water storage tanks at Mount Pleasant were done in order for us to be able to send water up here, coming through, where it was again, Vineyard. And we have been able as well to complete one of the reservoirs and a pump station at Apes Hill, because when the same AG took me on the tour with the Water Authority in May of 2021, we recognized that St. Joseph gets its water depending on whether it is Eastern St. Joseph or Western St. Joseph. Now, I would only know all of that if he and the Water Authority people carry me on the tour. And I then, as Minister of Finance, agreed to work to make sure that what we learned, I remember coming up here on December 31st, 2016 or 2017, Boo Husbands of Blessed Memory. You understand? Boo brought me out here and we came up and we went all wrong. You remember? All Year's Day. When everybody else was in town trying to get all the things for All Year's Day, we were moving all around. So I'm happy that much of the problems have been solved, but here's the other issue. Because of the pressurized water coming now, you know what's the next problem?
Burst.
They burst. But when I look at the reports for the burst, the truth is that the burst for the first 4 months of this year are much less than they were in 2022 and 2023. In 2022, we had 48 incidents of burst mains in the St. Joseph distribution system. In 2023, we had 39 incidents. Overall, for the whole country, these are all 4 to 5% of the amount for the whole country. So considering St. Joseph is one of 11 parishes, you're not getting as many bursts as the other parishes. But for the first January to March this year, first 3 months of this year, we've only had 7. So I'm hoping and praying, but at the same time, I'm working with the Water Authority to see how we can strategically replace key mains. And as Santia said, while she's been able to do the mill and pave already quickly, the roads that require more complexity and require services to be put in will take a little longer. And in some instances, Water Authority, or if we're applicable, NPC and Light and Power would also have a role to play. So we are doing a lot, but we require people's patience in some instances because it's not straightforward.
We St. Joseph have been waiting too long.
I agree, but guess what? I ain't been here long.
And as I tell you, I live all my life here, and I know all the nooks and crannies. I know St. Joseph.
But I wish I could have been here to help you 50 years ago.
Listen, it's a beautiful parish, but we are neglected. Thank you very much, and thanks for the showers.
Thank you, my dear.
Good night to the head table. My name is Marilyn Cook, and I'm from Branchbury in St. Joseph. And my biggest heartache tonight, I'm very sorry, Deputy Prime Minister, but it is at you. I've heard all that you have said. I don't want to be disrespectful. I'm tired of hearing it talk. We need some roads. Plain and simple. Mr. Holder got up. He said so much, and I could bet you nobody that's saying it here ain't know Mr. Holder said, because we need roads. While the grass growing, the horse starving. And I don't know if your familiar with this saying, but to whom much is given, much is expected. We have never, ever given the Barbados Labour Party a patch seat to carry to Parliament. We have always given you a full seat. I tired of the patching because the patching does make you skid when you come up the hills when the road wet. I don't drive, but I am a pedestrian. And I just skid when I go up Bright Hill when the rain fall. We seriously need our roads fixed. I'm so sorry, I tired the long talk. Transportation. The Parish speaks an excellent idea, but there is something called victimization. And I suffered that at my last Parish speaks, where now there is a particular tax driver that said to me, the people tell me, don't care you, because you went to St. Joseph speak and you spoke about us. So I just walk and catch Bashua bus. Because the man even confronted me when I got off the bus, he got off to beat me. All because I opened my mouth at St. Joseph speaks. I ain't a bully, but I'm speaking again. The tap drivers want looking at. I'm sorry. Some of them bring over the nasties that are mentality and they just terrorize us. And I don't think it is right. It cannot be fair. So I am pleading with you, all the technical stuff that has to be done with the roads, speed it up. Because the Prime Minister said we need patience. But I don't think Job want nothing with St. Joseph people. We have been patient. We don't have no more, but I know about them. I don't have no more patience left. So thank you all, and I hope you will look into the tap drivers and the roads.
Marilyn, I have a question for you.
Yes, please.
Some roads start getting doing? None?
Please, ma'am, don't let me start on the roads that start.
No, Marilyn, I want to understand.
You know I can't see to speak, but
I
I observed 2 roads
Okay.
that were started.
Which 2?
And none the 2 ain't done.
Vaughn's Road?
Suriname and Vaughn's.
Right. So Xantia spoke to that earlier. So she's already addressed that. And Vaughn's, you said, is 90-something%? Yeah, just now to be paid.
And St. Joseph people
Okay.
upset. You know why?
Hold on.
As we see the patching people, the people that say St. Joseph speaks soon coming up.
Hold on. No. Let me finish, Marilyn. Because if Barbados had roads done for the 9-10 years that the last administration was in, then we wouldn't be coming from so far down. Not true?
But you know I'm dealing with last administration.
I know.
We got to
I know.
cut our money where our mouths
hold on, and I have to be just as frank with you. Because at the end of the day, I have 30 constituencies that are crying out for help. Now, St. Joseph, because it's a parish, is one of 30. So that we need to also, that's why I say that I'm not trying to tell you to be quiet or anything so. But I'm also giving you the facts. If you had all of these children to feed in one room, and you only have so much to be able to do to carry around, you got to make sure that everybody get a little bit, not true? And whether we like it or not, it wasn't the Barbados, this government, that left us with debt that we had to restructure and therefore narrowed the space to be able to do what we have to do. Now, we have found money, in spite of being in an IMF program, to do some of these things. But I want us also to be realistic, because you can't do all one time. And I've said it over and over. The reason why, this is the 3rd year the Parish Speaks is going. And you know why I come back? Because I want to give you an opportunity to speak, but I also want to give us an opportunity to explain to you. Because unrealistic expectations can also lead to an unrealistic mood. And I believe that I have a duty as Prime Minister of this country to also explain to you that I have to put money as Minister of Finance in schools. If the schools weren't painted or the schools falling down, what you going to tell me? We got to take money and put in the hospital. If they weren't taking care of the hospital, what are you going to hear? You have to take the same money and put in the roads. You have to take the same money and put in the transport board. You have to take the same money and put in the drains. You have to take the same money and put in crime prevention. You have to take the same money and make sure that the police, the nurses, the teachers, everybody getting paid decently. If not, they too gonna feel away. You have to put the same money to offset the cost of living increases that we have been offsetting. You have to put the money to do all of these things. Now, that's not an excuse. Let me finish. That's not an excuse, but it is the reality. And if we don't share with you the reality of our existence, then you will develop unrealistic expectations. If we could do $100 million in roads one time so, I would like to do it. But what does that mean? That if I have to find the additional revenue, and we can't carry our debt above a certain level. So you still have to turn around, because if that happened, you remember what we faced when we came in? They told us send home 5,000 people. Delal World, governor of the central bank, said send home 5,000 people. When did this government send home 5,000 people? Not once. Did not tolerate it. But what we did was that we said, look, we're going to restructure our debt. And I hear people talking foolishness now about the debt that was restructured. But I'm going to come to that in future. When they finish dealing with their things, we can deal with them. But separate from that, what we had to do as well is to be able to deal with a number of areas where there was no provisioning for many years. Now, we're the first, Santi told you last year, and this year again, she said it, that she has a report on bridges. Santi, when was the last work done? When was the last work done on bridges in Barbados? 2007, but serious maintenance on the bridges has not happened. So that all of a sudden now everything is becoming an emergency. So I need you to understand that the failure to do all of these roads all at once is not out of contempt for you or for the people of St. Joseph or St. Andrew or St. Michael or St. James or Christchurch, because I can go parish by parish. But it is about being able to do things in a balanced, measured way where we can still do housing. Dolores want to make sure that people get houses in this country. Where Elsa come along, and Mr. Holder remind us that the same lady who need to get in her house in Sugar Hill, because we had to fix, how many houses, William? Over 700 houses had to be rebuilt, and then about 2,000 almost for repairs. Now, when 2021 started, we didn't expect to have to do that. And God forbid, I pray that there will be no major hurricane or floods. Because who was it? Pat, who was it was asking Pat about this? Somebody asked about the land slippage earlier. It was Dolores. Ask him about the land slippage too. Santia and Rommel had to go up in St. Simon's and deal with, on top of White Hill, got to deal with that. So I hear you, my dear. I know you long. I know you well. And I know that you are a reasonable woman. And I'm saying to you that let me give you the facts so that you can be reasonable with respect to these facts. Because if we don't do it this way and the government topple over, the government, there are 20-something, I don't even want to tell you how much. The countries in the world that got debt problems and got liquidity problems is almost 50, 60 countries collectively. I just came back from IMF World Bank meetings, and I'm telling you that the one thing I know, I said it in the budget, I am not letting Barbados, as long as I got control of anything to be able to do with the policies, I am not putting us in a position where this country is going to be put on the edge again, such that 5,000, 2,000, 10,000 people, lives at risk with respect to restructuring of the debt. So the old people taught us that a little with content is great gain. But I want to be ambitious and to do a lot with content. But a lot still does not mean all at once. So I'm saying that in the same way, when I came here in St. Joseph, Dale would tell you, you know too, that we were cursed and people don't want to hear us about water. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. It takes cursing for what? 3.5, 4 years? And in the last 2 years, what have people been able to do for the most part? 18 months, 2 years. because it took us time. I couldn't wiggle a nose, twiggle a nose like Bewitch, Elizabeth on Bewitch, and get the 1.5 billion gallon tank in Casa Grande built overnight. You know it took time, 'cause it's just there above you. You understand? So I'm saying to you that let us please be measured and recognize that these things sometimes take time. We heard Mr. Holder. Sometimes when you're doing the designs, you have to wait. If you could do the geotechnical and get it done quick, that's great. But sometimes they got to go and do boreholes. Then they dig the boreholes, you got to get the equipment for the boreholes. You got to make sure the equipment available. Then when you finish digging it and you take the sample, you got to send it down to the government lab. And you got to pray that you get it back. Or sometimes, as William is reminding me, it has to go overseas sometimes, so that we may look at something and feel that it is done. The other thing that hit me was his reminder that in St. Joseph and St. Andrew, we have no suck wells. 1/7 of our land is oceanic upsurge. It's clear. So it means that the things that we can do with ease in other parts of the country, we can't do here. And it therefore means, as you just heard from Mr. Holder, that in some instances too, you may have to redesign the road because of the flow of the water in the drain. So these things are complex. I went when Vaughn's Road started, and I would like to go when Vaughn's Road get paved very shortly, because I want to make sure that we can deliver something to the people that will not disappear or will not degrade in a short period of time. And you know what they say? Those who fail to plan are prepared to fail. And that's why sometimes the planning takes a little longer, especially in this Scotland district, than it does in the rest of Barbados, because of the nature of the landscape. Now, you said to whom much is given, and you're absolutely correct. Because equally, where there is an abundance of beauty, there's usually a destabilizing factor. And St. Joseph and St. Andrew have some, and St. John are some of the prettiest landscapes to be found in the Caribbean. But they are constrained equally by features and factors that make the living here need careful management with respect to it. In St. Andrew, Rommel will tell you, we can't go and put down housing by him any and everywhere. And in fact, one of the problems that he will have in St. Andrew as MP is that he can't meet the housing demand in that parish as much as he would like. And similarly here at Dolores, in certain parts of St. Joseph, we will not be able to meet the housing demand as quickly as we would like. Behind you in Branchbury and Ginger Works, we are doing a number of house lots, and that's one of the few areas where we've been able to move with ease and alacrity there. So I know that you are a reasonable woman, and I know, therefore, that you will understand that I can take the lashes now, like I did with the water, but with Mr. Holder, you tell me don't call an election in a hurry, right? So with due time, we are not even at 2.5 years since the last election. So we still have some time to go. If I was to follow the last Prime Minister, I would go 5 years and 90 days, sorry, 5 years and 85 days. So that means that I have at least almost 3 years left, if not more than 3 years.
Okay.
So rest assured that I am in Grantley Adams School. I am conscious of the need of the residents of St. Joseph. Thank you.
I have listened, ma'am, and you said I'm a reasonable woman, but I'm not a stupid woman. You said this was Parish Speaks number 3. And all of the speeches we heard tonight, we were given from Parish Speech number 1. So, you know, when you have school, you just have theory, and then you have practical, 100% for theory. But I think the practical must be given a failing grade in these roads. I am so serious.
And I will take your grade now, because I know that you will come and apologize to the minister and to the AG for not believing that the process of planning takes time.
But
And,
Auntie,
look, I know you long.
Oh, God.
I now come, look, cook some fish and cuckoo for me next week and let me talk. Because
listen, if you do me roads, cook and fish
but
for me
I
anytime.
can't get the road done in a week, so it means I can't get the fish and cuckoo.
But seriously,
So
though,
I serious too. And
please,
I have
ma'am.
tried to explain to you, ma'am. Seriously, ma'am, I've tried to explain to you in a way that I hope most Bajans.
understand all
I'm
of you
using
saying.
your opportunity at the microphone to explain to the country, because we are getting to believe that because we want or need something now, that I can just, or anybody here can twiggle the nose
That's
and it
not
happens.
what we are trying to say.
But
it
what I'm
seems
saying
to
to you-
us as though we are the stepping stones. It's like you telling me this won't do it, the next won't do it, the third won't do it.
Let me put it in context for you.
I understand.
This government made the choice. St. Lucie got some roads and you got the water. St. Lucie wants water, all the mains and all the things, and the brown water still got to do, right? St. Andrew is getting the bridges. And then St. Peter and St. Lucie have been complaining about the brown water. I want you to understand
But
that
I
we
understand
have...
you, like you telling me
With
that
all
I get
due
water
respect-
so I can't get roads.
No.
But take back that.
I'm not taking it back
I
either.
understand what you are
No,
saying.
I am
but
not
I
taking it
still
back.
need you all to understand our point of view as well.
Marilyn, we are not only understand it, we have literally worked night and day to make sure that we can get water in here for you. You know how bad I felt when I come all through St. Joseph and find out that people, where's Pat? All of them complaining about the fact.
Talk to me.
No, I
Pat,
talking
no
to
heavy
Pat
child
about
to
water.
lift up
No, I
and
am.
then go for water. I could tell you about the water situation.
So therefore, Marilyn, let us get real and understand what. No, let us finish, please. Please.
Don't get vexed.
No,
you get agitated.
No, you agitated, not me.
Please calm down, mommy.
No, because you cooking fish and cuckoo for me.
when all
So,
is
and I
said
don't
and
eat
done-
from people I get vexed with.
No,
So,
I would never do nothing.
so listen, seriously, all jokes aside, you have to be reasonable.
I am being reasonable.
And in being reasonable, the government has to make sure that the money goes to as many places as possible within the time frames that we have.
I understand the
And-
road part.
and-
Let me get the tap people because I sketch more bus than I
hold
walk
on,
road.
but with all due respect, the tap issue is a separate issue. We're talking about roads. And what happened with the tap thing is not to be encouraged. And in fact, that is why the Transport Authority is there, for them to investigate complaints with respect to people who behave in an inappropriate manner. So I'm with you on the tap person. And in fact, when you were speaking, both the senior minister and the deputy prime minister were up here deprecating the fact that you have been treated in this way by a tap driver. So that's clear. But I also want you and everyone to understand that the cost of roads, Mr. Holder, what is the average cost of a road in the Scotland district to build, please? So $2 million per kilometer to less than a kilometer. So you begin to understand. And I don't want to fight with you or quarrel or
I ain't
anything.
quarreling with you.
But
I
am
gonna
telling
sit
you-
down. When he
Hold on.
get done and he mic
No, no.
off, me you may talk.
No. I ain't talking in front of everybody because this isn't a private talk no more. This is public. And the cost for less than a kilometer in the Scotland district, because of the conditions that you and I both know that the Scotland district got, that you don't have in the rest of the island, is $2 million for almost a kilometer. Okay? So it means that we can do less at one time up here than we could do elsewhere where the road has a strong sub base and foundation. And the problem is that we also have underground water moving, not true? So that the underground water leads to the slippage as well. So it requires literally us planning properly, because if we don't plan properly, you go and put your house on it, you lost out your money, you still owe the bank the mortgage, and then what's going to happen? The government is then going to have to try and help come to make sure that you're not homeless. So these things are not simple, and I'm not going to let anyone believe that this is as simple as ABC 1, 2, 3. They are not. And that is why when you bring an engineering plan for me, if I can't read an engineering plan, I got to rely on Mr. Holder. What I will do is cross-examine him and the contractors to make sure that what they're doing is reasonable and what they're doing is fiscally responsible and what they're doing is value for money as far as possible. So that's where we are. All right?
I understand
On the
all that you
CAP
have
program, please go forward. Go forward. Because nobody should be intimidating anybody in this country for simply making a legitimate complaint about service. That's why we come. People come here and we know that people are going to complain about X, Y, Z. But that doesn't stop us from coming here because you need to listen. And I want them to take example from us. We go and listen and we go back, and if we can do better, we do better. If we are at the max, we explain to you we at the baller and we at the max already. But what is important is conversation. So for a person to want to intimidate you or victimize you for simply expressing a view about lack of service, that's wrong.
Well, it has happened
That's
because
wrong.
I can't catch the
I can't
van
tell
no
you,
more.
hold on, I can't tell you that it is not happening. I'm telling you it is wrong. And if it is happening, then there can be a legitimate concern raised with the transport authority, who can then ask the person to come in and explain their side of the situation, because the rules of natural justice still apply in this country. And once that is heard and they hear both sides, then they're the appropriate authority to determine if there's any need for action, and if so, what is the appropriate action.
Thank you.
You're most welcome, my dear. I come in from a Fisher cuckoo. This time, breadfruit cuckoo, I hope you got them.
Good night, everybody. I just want to speak to two issues. Sports Council, Andrew Dixon is my name. I just want to speak to, my address is Lot 38, Blackman's, St. Joseph. I want to speak to two issues. One, the hard court through the Sports Council. The hard court in Horace Hill was placed there in 1991. And nothing was done to that hard court since it was placed there. We played at that hard court for years. And a long time I was trying to get some action on the hard court. And right now, the rings won the Sports Council, I think. They took that. And the other
It needs repaving, and the basketball things need to be put back up.
It need outfitting properly. The
And
legs-
repaving too?
Yeah.
Okay,
it need
no problem.
repaving because grass is growing on it, and
No
the rings
problem.
are on the
That's unacceptable.
on the
So we'll list it and put it in the ones that need to be reviewed. A hard court is obviously easier for us to fix than to build a new pavilion up front. So we can get that done quicker. Mr. Merrill, you have it in your program. Thank you.
Meanwhile, that is being paved. I was also asked to seek permission for the guys to this court here at Grantley Adams. We normally play on that when we get the opportunity because of the flat surface. And I think there's something wrong with the lights at this court. They're not working, so like night we cannot play. But what I really want to do, Madam Prime Minister, is to seek permission to have the youngsters to use that court until the one in Horace Hill is probably finished or completed, and the lights, so we can play on that.
That's a most reasonable request. Mr. Merrill, can you speak to the principal here and see what help they need with the lights? The Chief Education Officer is here as well, and the Minister. And also then to be able to make the facility available to the community. The truth is that whether Horace Hill is fixed or not, the facility should be made available to the community after hours on evening and on weekends, so long as the school does not have a competition or a need for it with respect to school-related matters. Is that fair?
Fair, ma'am.
Thank you for raising it.
The
Chief,
thing
that
is,
can work too? Thank you.
since we are lacking skills in Barbados, I want to know from the Ministry of Education, probably there are programs, but I may not be aware all of some of the programs that they have in schools and in communities to actually encourage trade and some of the youngsters to, you don't necessarily have to be a dropout to go to trade, but to encourage some of the young men and women to go into trade. I see a lot of women painting now, and I think that is something that I just want to hear from the ministry what are the plans they have for the youngsters as far as boosting our trade and stuff like that in Barbados right now.
I think, Kay, you want to talk about Construction Gateway. There's some programs, Andrew, don't go too far. There's some construction training programs that we started 2 years ago, and I'm hoping that she can expand as we keep going because we really have a need for the skills right now.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Thank you, Andrew, for the question as well. One of the things that we started to do, and we started that program last year in April, we launched it, which is Construction Gateway. And it is skills that are specific to the construction industry because Barbados was showing that we had a shortage of skills in that. A shortage of skills in the particular area. And so there were 24 areas in which skills, and they range from masonry to carpentry to tiling to painting to welding to a whole bunch of other areas. I don't have all 24 in my head. But we trained a significant number of people. They also received, many of them, their toolkits at the end of their training. So if you had a plumber, they received their toolkits that they can then go and use those tools to be able to go and start earning and living. There were also some job attachments for as many as we were able to get at the time. So it was the training, it was the tools, it was the gear, because some of them got their boots, etc., and job attachments. And I have to thank a number of people from the private sector, a number of businesses that actually donated some of those toolkits and some of the particular wear that they have. At that time, we trained both males and females. It was close to 2,000 that we trained over the last year, and we are getting ready to start the next cohort. This is a training program, the Construction Gateway, that was with Barbados Vocational Training Board, Barbados Community College, and Samuel Jackman Prescott, and the TVET, the Technical and Vocational Educational Training Institution. So it came together. So that is the Construction Gateway, specifically to this particular industry. We want to do other industry-specific training, but we need to go one by one. In addition, it wasn't just for the trades in that area, but we were also building skills in the future economy. And so there was some work that was done with the cybersecurity, as well as with we now currently have a cohort running with the artificial intelligence, and we will continue to offer those training for those skills. That's for the future of work.
With the skills not being the most attractive thing to our young people today. Years ago when I was a young boy, you came in as an apprentice mason and you worked with the mason and the trade was passed down to you. I see now in the trade that much youngsters not interested at all in the trades at all. You're not finding the older guys mentoring the younger ones. So even though we have these things available, I still think that the Ministry of Education have to get it out there, make it more advertising, more appetizing, and allowing these youngsters to know how important trade is to our country, because if we have money that we work for and we don't have trade men to build the houses, we're still in trouble. So I still think that we have to put a little more energy into advertising trade and the necessity of trade.
That's been a wise reflection. We comment on it all the time, that the number of young people who are willing to go in to trades is significantly lower than it was 20 or 30 years ago. The difficulty that the country is going to face is that if we don't have access to labor, to tradesmen, the price of construction will skyrocket. If the price of construction skyrockets, then from housing to buildings to investments necessary for business become excessively expensive. And either if you're a business, you may become uncompetitive, and if it's about getting access to a house, you may not be able to get as many people in houses as possible. We are already seeing it in ways, and that's why we started the Construction Gateway 2 years ago, because we knew that with the pipeline of projects starting to come on, that if we don't get a steady supply of labor, we're going to be in an inflationary environment in this country. And we have already seen companies begin to advertise for work permits to bring in people and to have people work. And that is why it is of concern to us. Now, we may well reach a point in the country where I don't mind if people and youngsters don't necessarily want to do trades themselves, but they must do something that gives them a productive living. And the truth is that we don't have enough skill sets across the entire spectrum, not just in tradesmen. So they will find work probably in other areas. But the country is going to keep having to have the conversation about how it is going to have to get the supply of labor, just as we did 15, 20 years ago. How many people were coming in from the islands and Guyana to do agriculture? Because Bajans were not prepared to work in the agricultural fields in the same way. This parish perhaps had more, and the Scotland district had more people still in agriculture than most parts of the country, but we still had a shortage. So we're going to face these shortages across multiple sectors simply because the population has declined. And when there is a shortage, what happens? Prices go up. So thank you. Anyone next? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to, no problem. Before, I'm going to let the AG speak, and then I want to just say something at the end before we close and to reflect as a family on a family matter.
Thank you very much, PM, and thank you for those. Linda, Transport Board.
Okay, so we know we're still having problems in the Chalkymount area. Sorry, my apologies. Good night, everyone. I am Linda Holder. We are still having challenges with the Chalkymount in particular. We have been seeing some increases in Sugar Hill. I know that you would prefer that they're all larger buses, but you should have seen that we've been putting in some large electric buses on the Sugar Hill route. It is not the best, we know this, but we are continuing to work on it. Our resources at this point in time does not allow us to give everyone an hourly service, but we are slowly working on improving that. I know for sure the Chalkymount is not what we promised last time, but we are still struggling with that. As you would appreciate, we continue to make the students our priorities. So I know the 4 o'clock in particular is a bugbear, and we've been trying to put something in there for that. But that time is proven to be a little challenging for us, but we will continue to work on it. So yes, we admit we have a problem on the Chalkymount route. Next, let's see the other. Yeah.
11 and a 12.
I accept that, and as I said,
That can be there, we there have enough buses. No, we get buses, the service worse.
okay, so we're working with the Transport Authority to put more services on the route, and we wouldn't go into the number of buses we have at this point in time, but we will continue to work on it, and I appreciate that after 7, you're having some challenges, so we will look at plugging that loop.
Whatever the shortage of buses, there are enough between the privately owned, and if there's some issues with the tap drivers, those have to be dealt with. But as Santia said at the beginning, we have signed a memorandum with the Chinese government with respect to buses. And I hope that there will be a significant number of buses that we can get, but there is no part of the world now where you can go and buy anything called a bus off the shelf. And therefore, invariably, it means that they have to go through the thing of manufacturing the buses as well to spec. And that process, we're now trying to clean up the paperwork. So I don't even want to tell you that the bus can get manufactured next week or next month, because the paperwork still has to be cleared up first. And once that paperwork is cleared up, then those buses. We are hoping, and the number of buses is a significant number. Because when I went to China, I spoke to them about it. We've been in negotiations about it. And we're looking at 50 long of the bigger buses and 50 of the smaller buses. So you're not talking about an insignificant number. But in the interim, the Transport Authority has to work with those who have licenses to be able to appropriately allocate them to routes, rather than people only being on routes that they feel are profitable. And that has to be a condition that we move forward, and that's why we're waiting. Santia should have us by the middle of the year, I hope, the framework for the Mass Transit Authority, which will better manage the deployment and allocation of buses to routes. Okay? Thank you. AG?
Let me thank those constituents who've come out to participate in this program. When I first came to St. Joseph and started to address the issue of the roads and the Scotland district, the fairly frequent answer that was given to me by the Ministry of Public Works was that we should abandon the road, move out the people. It was cheaper to relocate the residents than to fix the roads. I have always personally resisted that approach, and I know that this administration does not support that approach for a number of good reasons. If we took that kind of approach, it would mean that our rural communities would die. Our village shops, our churches, you'll be moving people out of the Scotland district and moving them perhaps to live in Christchurch, where they can't grow a banana, where they can't grow coconuts. You're ripping people up from their culture. And if I ever had any doubt that what we're doing is the right thing, there's a family in St. Joseph, a great four-parent, went to Panama and worked on the canal, sent back money to buy 4 acres of land. So you know the time frame that I'm talking about, at the time when people like us didn't have no land anywhere. And Public Works suggested back then, not the people now, back then, that we should move out those people because of slippage, without understanding that we would be ripping those people away from something that is priceless. The Scotland district has always been a challenge. Don't let us fool ourselves. But the fact that it is a challenge does not mean that we should fix it hastily to satisfy our immediate, certainly my immediate political needs, or that we should invest money in it that will not last past 2 or 3 years. Santia can tell you that I am constantly complaining about the roads. Constantly complaining about the roads. There's hardly a day she doesn't hear me. And when I get a little tired and a little shame, I go to her junior minister, Rommel, and complain to him. But simply to satisfy an immediate need is not what is going to help us. For the moment, I think we can all see that some things have started. But you know, there was a time when I was told that we couldn't solve the water problem either. And through patience and perseverance, we fixed that. And we were told, oh, we would never do anything about the clinic. And patience and perseverance fixed that. And Pat, I'm so glad you came to the opening of Hillcrest, and I never saw you with a bigger smile on your face than when you were there on that occasion. So the point is that we are committed to doing what has to be done in St. Joseph, and we're doing it carefully and methodically, and all that we're asking is patience. And that's all. That is the beginning and end of it. But I am confident that in the way in which we've settled the water issues, built a new reservoir and so on, that we're going to get these things done. Vaughn's Road has taken long, but it is almost finished, and you can see the beautiful work there. Clifton Hill is in St. Thomas, not St. Joseph, but we've started that. And there are a number of other things that are in the pipeline. And you will see that this work will get done. The one thing that you will always be able to say is that we hold ourselves accountable. That's why we're here. Nobody wants to come to some place and get licks. But the point is, we are serious enough about what we're doing to come back to the people year after year after year, to expose ourselves to exactly this kind of criticism, because it helps to make the process of government more transparent, and it helps to hold all of us accountable. So don't feel, I'm not at all fazed. I've been hearing a lot of those kinds of things for the longest time, and I've always said, stay the course, we will get it done, and we've been delivering. So Pat, you just stay the course. We will get all of your things done in good time, and I will personally invite you to Parliament when we do the legislation. Prime Minister, your closing words.
Thank you very much. I want to thank the people of St. Joseph once again for coming out, and to also say that, look, as I said to Marilyn earlier, it's not always a straight road, but the government will continue to do its best, and it will continue to try to reach as many of the issues and to deal with as many of the issues as possible. Along the way, there are hiccups. Elsa was a hiccup. When you have to turn and spend money on rebuilding 700 houses, 90% of whom are below the poverty line, and 95% of which were uninsured, that is a huge hiccup. And at the same time, you have to repair just under 2,000, I don't have the exact figure, but that was funding that would otherwise go into other things. The drainage, Santi is having to redesign the standards for drainage, because what we learned last year, as I keep saying, is that that heavy afternoon rain comes down now with such an intensity that it causes more problems than what used to be the gentle rain that we would get. So we are facing a number of complications that would not otherwise be there. By the same token, we have to deal with long-standing issues in the Scotland district that are beyond our capability because of the nature of the topography as we go forward. But I ask you, as I said, to continue to let us know where the challenges are. And once we know where the challenges are, we can work to fix them, even if there is a longer period of time in some instances that some people would like, because we have to go through a planning exercise rather than just saying, let's get that done. In some instances, we can do that. And in other instances, depending on the nature of what the problem is, it takes planning and engineering and skills that are dedicated as we go forward. Tonight, I want to ask us to stand just for a moment's silence. Roy's mother passed away at 1 this morning, Roy Morris. And Roy, in spite of that, has been here for duty today and tonight. And I would want us to empathize with him and his family, recognizing that this has not been an easy time for the family, but he is still reported for duty. Thank you, Roy. May she rest in peace, and may your family be comforted. Thank you.